Good morning. My name is Rick Hill, and this is the first boot camp that we're going to be holding. We are at the Oasis of Hope Hospital in Tijuana, Mexico. As you know, I was here 38 years ago, and so my hope, my goal here is to be able to instill in the patients that are here a sense of hope. And not just a sense of hope, but a sense of expectancy. For me, this was the single most important event of my life. Being at the hospital, overcoming cancer, deciding that I wanted to be more, to do more, to appreciate the life that I had, certainly more than I had before, created a better life for me. It's fair to say that because I got cancer and because I found Oasis of Hope, that my life is better. And that's what I want for every patient. There are some patients here. We welcome you to the meeting. We'll be doing this every Friday at the Oasis of Hope. So if you're just considering coming to Oasis of Hope, at least you'll know that we'll get together at least one time during your visit. Plus, you also see me hiding in the hallways and, coming in. We'll have patients coming in. Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll have patients coming in while we're doing the presentation. That's fine. Just walk in. Do not worry about that camera. We're doing real business here, so you don't have to be concerned. Welcome to boot camp. Today we're going to be talking about a concept that I want you to become very familiar with, and that is resetting your life. And as I go on with the presentation, that'll become more clear, I hope, as time goes by. It all started for me back in 1974. I was at the Mayo Clinic. How many have heard of the Mayo Clinic? Yeah. Rochester, Minnesota, the Mayo Brothers. Those are the Mayo Brothers, of course, seated forever in stone or whatever that's made out of, metal of some kind. And it's a great place. I mean, for an OCD, which I tend to be, it's like Disneyland. Everything is so organized. Everything's so perfect at the Mayo Clinic. And it is, for all practical purposes, most people would say that it is a citadel of modern medicine. Well, that's where I was when I found out that I had cancer. That's what I look like with hair. Thank you very much for noticing that. But I was 24 years old when I had cancer. I think that's way too young. Do you think that's way too young? That's not a good age to find you have terminal cancer. If life had an eraser, I would have used it. There's no question. I was married just a year earlier. My wife was expecting our first child, Heather, who at that time was not Heather. It was just this thing. And, it was just like, what? Are you kidding me? No, there is no way that I could have cancer. It's Rick. I'm too good a guy to have anything like this happen to me. This is 1 week after a total of 10 hours of surgery, and that's me pushing the cart down the hall because you don't want to get pneumonia, the drill, after big surgery. And you can tell the look on my face that, I'm not long for this world. I mean, there were times when I thought I was going to expire during that experience. And it was just a miserable time, if I can use that word. But an important time. And you'll see in a little bit why I cling to that idea that this can be the most important and meaningful time of your life. I wound up at the Oasis of Hope Hospital in Tijuana, Mexico. That's a nice building with good facilities, modern, clean, right across from the beach. That's not what I went to 38 years ago. It was in the same piece of real estate. Also, you can't see this, but I'm looking out the big bay windows in the speaker's room, and I can see the bull ring right over here. Yes, I can see the ocean right through there. We are just one block off the ocean, one or two. But this building was not there when I went. However, what was there saved my life, and that is a caring doctor, Ernesto Contreras, Francisco's father, and a theory that cancer could be turned around without drugs or radiation. Here's a letter from the Mayo Clinic stating that I actually did have stage 3 high-grade embryonal cell carcinoma. The reason that I put this on the screen is because I got very vocal when I got home, and I testified for a Senate investigation committee. I went around to several churches. Sounds like we have a child in the hall crying, but we're not going to stop. We had, I spoke at churches, Rotaries, women's groups all over the place. And the American Cancer Society found out about me. And when I would go speak someplace where the press was going to be there, they had an American Cancer Society person that wanted equal time. And I'll show you in a minute, one of their deals, but he says, in regard to your question, the people have asked whether you actually did have cancer in the first place. You are entirely right that you had stage 3 high-grade embryonal cell carcinoma. And of course, I wrote the Mayo Clinic to prompt this letter and said, I think maybe you misdiagnosed me. That's a $1 million lawsuit, even back then. And so, yeah, they were only too happy to provide me with a letter. And they said, we're going to preserve your slides in paraffin forever. And any licensed doctor can come to the Mayo Clinic and look at my slides. So if you think I didn't have it, you go to the Mayo Clinic and you can prove it for yourself. I took this step to keep the skeptics from going, he never had it in the first place. That's why he's doing so well. Who's that? Somebody shouted out. No one knows? That is Steve McQueen. Did the movie Bullet. Actor. He was famous for coming, if not to this clinic, I don't think it was this clinic, but he came to Mexico for treatment of cancer. And he did not do well. And so the problem was that he, sort of poisoned the pond. That they said, well, Steve McQueen didn't make it, did he? Years later, when I was in Idaho, up in the mountains there, I ran into members of his family. And they said on several occasions to me, because they attended my talk, they said, by the way, he did not do what they wanted him to do when he got home. And I'm telling you straight up, that is the key. In other words, when you walk through the door of this hospital, your life changes. And it can never be the same if you want this program to work. All in. Are you listening? Sitting down, taking notes? All in is the answer to this game. And that was not what he felt would be a good idea. But he was a famous man with millions of dollars. He had temptations I never have or will ever have. So, I'm sure it was different for him. That's when I was the administrator of a Christian day school, hence the moniker in front of Rick Hill. But it says Laetrile, cure or quackery. So they were coming after us with fangs, teeth. And they were saying, this is not true. This doesn't have any validity. And sure enough, here's a County American Cancer Society column running on the exact same page as mine. They didn't even give it a different page. So this lady was following me around and wanted everybody to know that, this was nonsense what happened to me. Here's the good news. Everything I did to get over terminal cancer was easy to do. Think about it. If you put a nice big salad in front of you, it's pretty easy to make and pretty easy to eat. But it's also easy not to do. There's the catch. In other words, it'd be just as easy to not make the salad and get in the car and go to McDonald's. Or if you don't want to be that brutal, go to the refrigerator and get something out of there that you shouldn't have bought at the grocery store in the first place. By the way, if it's in the house, you will eat it. I don't care if you hide it. You will eat it. In fact, if you're at the grocery store and you go, honey, we should get these cookies here in case we have company. I mean, we can't expect company to eat like a rabbit like you do, right? No, if it's in the house at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to wake up and go, I know where they're hidden. You're going to haul yourself out of bed and go get those cookies and a big glass of milk. And I'm saying there's a time and a place you can do that, but not when you first get back from the clinic. So it's easy to do, easy not to do. Exercise is not that hard to do because you don't need to exercise like you're building Arnold Schwarzenegger muscles to be healthy. But if you wanted to go for a 2-mile walk a day, that's pretty easy to do. Walking is pretty easy. A stroll, it's just important to work those lungs and get that lymphatic system pumping. It's also easy not to do. It's also easy to take those gym shoes off and sit down in the Barca Lounger and get the remote, and instead of taking that 2-mile walk. I mean, easy to do, easy not to do. Listen to me. Everything I have done to conquer stage 3 cancer has been easy to do. Nothing was difficult. But it was equally easy for me not to do it at all or stop doing it, even though I had been doing it. And it's difficult because you can do an heroic act one time in your life, and people give you plaques and they put you in the newspaper and you saved this lady from drowning and it was great. Problem with food? You got to be heroic 3 times a day. Let me tell you something. That's a lot more heroic. That requires a lot more gumption to be consistent than it does to do something right one time. Now, it's running into a flaming building. I'll give it to you. That's harder than eating right. But I am saying that it takes intestinal fortitude to do the right thing consistently. It's easy to do. It's easy not to do. Here are the things I stopped doing that are important. Number 1, I stopped eating bad food. We all know that spam is really made of people. If I never gave you a printed diet, my guess is you would intuitively know about what you should and should not eat. You all know we're not, Twinkies is not on the diet. Now there's some fine tuning that has to be done for sure. Things that you need to learn about diet, but 90% of what you already need to know, you intuitively knew before you got here. It's just a matter of making your mind up when I get home, it's going to stop. I'm not eating bad food another day of my life. And if you do, you don't get depressed, you don't quit the whole program, you get on the horse the next morning and you ride into Successville. That's how this works. Do you really think in 38 years I haven't eaten any bad food? Do you? Do you really think in 38 years I haven't had to drink things that I shouldn't have been drinking? I mean, let's talk. Of course I have. Now, I would say I've been doing the right thing more than I've been doing the wrong thing. And especially the first 5 years. First 5 years, I think it's pretty safe to say I did not cheat. I did not. And I also weighed 121 pounds during that period of time. I weigh 175 now, and I'm not skinny. But you can imagine me 30 or 40 pounds lighter than I am now. Holy smokes. I mean, looked like a black Q-tip. Yeah. Second thing I did was I started a detox. And if you really pin me down and say, how come you lived and others didn't? How come there are a group of you that did so well when a group of you that didn't? And I would say it's got to do with 2 basic things. One is I had had no chemo or radiation before I came. That was to my advantage because my immune system was probably stronger, having not been conditioned with the... Now, they have people come here that survive forever that had chemo and radiation. I'm not saying that's a game killer, but I'm saying it was an advantage for me. And then secondly, I detox. Now, detox means that it's not doing the right thing going forward, it's trying to fix what you've already done. It's sort of a rear view mirror than the windshield. And detox was a part of that. So the question came up from me, well, how do you detox? And they said, well, did you ever change the water in the radiator of your car? And I said, yes, I have. And they said, how did you do it? I said, well, I took the radiator cap off, I stuck a garden hose in the top, I unscrewed the butterfly valve at the bottom, and I turned the water on. And it came out black because my radiator was rusted. And then it came out brown, and then sort of a golden color, and then it was clear. When it was clear, I yanked the hose out, capped up both ends, and laid rubber out of the driveway. She said, very good, that's detox. You detoxed that car that day. And I said, well, how does that apply to what we're doing? And I want to know, where does the hose go? And she said, well, here's where the hose goes. And I was less than excited and enthusiastic about this approach. But I got to tell you, I did a colonic every week of my life for 5 years. I would do a couple-day fast, and then I would, at the end of the fast, do a colonic. And a lot of people think it's barbaric. Listen, when my grandmother, who was raised on a dirt farm in Alabama, when we would babies, toddlers, and we'd get the flu, she would get a turkey baster and give us a kitchen sink colonic. Now you go, ew, that's gross. Well, they didn't have doctors around back then. And if they did, they couldn't afford them. So they learned how to survive in the wilderness. And they knew that if you get sick, give that baby a colonic, and it tends to help. Well, you decide. But I personally think it's a good idea. In fact, the other day I was, once in a while you get where you're just feeling bloated and a little. And so I got my colonic bag, and I'm walking through the house, and my daughter said, "Not feeling well, Dad?" So, my kids, they think this is how you get well. It didn't surprise them, "Dad, what's with the bottle? What's with the hose? Where's that going to go?" They know the drill. And I do periodic fasts and colonics now. And I've been alive 38 years after I was treated, because I think that even though I pick good food to eat, it's problematic. Okay? Now, I did watermelon fasts. Dr. Francisco Contreras will be the first to tell you that's too high glycemic. Okay, but it is alkaline, and it did work for me. So, what I'm doing is reporting how I got well, and then you need to decide for yourself. But I think the important thing was whether you use water or you use tea or you use watermelon juice or whatever you use, I shut my body down for a couple days and just kept it hydrated, and then I did the colonic. Does that make sense? And I think there's another principle that we've since learned over these years of studying the human body, that when your hunger gets to a certain point, your immune system goes into hyperdrive. There's a whole group of people out there that starve themselves. Now, I don't think that's the right thing to do, but they show how their immune systems become hyperactive when they are without food for several days. Well, there you go. I once did a 30-day fast, and I don't recommend that. I think that's the wrong thing to do. But I can tell you that after about the 5th day, it didn't really bother me. But I just got the juicer, cut the ends off the watermelon, sliced it in sizes. It would go through the juicer, and I left the rind on except for the ends. I didn't juice all that end pieces. And the little bit of rind gives it that cucumber fresh quality. And it really tastes better that way. So I did this every week for 5 years. Okay? Just letting you know. Who's this guy? Anybody know? Most of you guys don't know because you didn't live in Detroit. But if you did live in Detroit, you'd know who that is, and his name is Soupy Sales. And Soupy Sales had a kids show with White Fang, Black Tooth, throwing the pies in the face. Yeah, I know how old I am. Thanks for reminding me. But what I liked about Soupy is that he would take a 1-a-day brand multiple vitamin and take it after his hamburger every day. And so what we did was we kids would line up. My mother would give each of us a vitamin. And then when Soupy would take it, when he'd swallow it, the cameraman would shake the camera and they'd have an explosion sound. So from probably 6 years old, I was taking supplements. How about today? My guess is that I've averaged 25 to 30 supplements a day for 38 years. Listening? Why is that? Because even the good food we eat has been picked too early, shipped too long, cooked to death. By the way, we're going to teach you how to cook too. We have a Cooking with the Doctor show that you can get. And you need supplements. Plus, Dr. Contreras and some of his cohorts have found that certain nutrients can can reverse, if not stop, if not reverse cancer. So get used to it. I was taking my vitamins one day at the kitchen sink. My father was visiting from Texas, Tyler. He's sitting behind me, and I've got, one mouthful after another of vitamins. And I heard him say behind me, "I'll swear, I don't believe I've ever seen anything that stupid." And I whipped around. I said, "You know what? It beats chemotherapy." And he went, That was the last time I heard him complain about me taking too many vitamins. Are you all in? Handfuls of vitamins are part of the deal. It's just the way it is. Next thing was I stopped eating gluten. However, gluten didn't seem to bother me as much back then, but Dr. Mark Hyman, MD, calls today's wheat Frankenwheat, after Frankenstein, of course. And he believes that it contains a super starch, a super gluten, way more powerful than what was historical, and a super drug that makes you crave it more, Frankenwheat. Gluten causes inflammation. Any gluten does. And Dr. Contreras has said publicly that cancer is at base an inflammatory disease. So if I were you, I would consider stop eating wheat products. By the way, you can buy gluten-free bread. Here's gluten-free crackers. You've seen these in health food stores. Nut Thins. UD's bread, UDI, Glutino products, Tinkyata noodles. There are some products out there that are so good that if you have company over, they don't know they're eating a gluten-free product. The bread's squishy like Wonder Bread, certain brands, UD's, and these are great crackers. Crunchmaster crackers, you can get those in almost every store. This is a blood test I took in 2004. Normal range is 0 to 19 units, 19 being high, for measuring anti-gliadin. And I was at 103 here, 136 here, and 175 there. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm a patient. But I know that those numbers don't look good, and the doctor saw that, he went crying in a bucket. What happens when you eat wheat? I said, well, I get a headache, I get bloated, and you don't want to be in an elevator with me after that. So here's the point. You may want to stop eating wheat products. There's a TV program, or an internet program on called TED, T-E-D, Ideas at Work. And they interview people all over the world that have great ideas. I'm hooked on it. You find the most fascinating talks on TED. Go to Google and type TED Talks. You're in. And one of them was by Jane McGonigal. And she said that you can go both ways or either way when you have a very traumatic situation. And that is you can have post-traumatic stress syndrome. But she said equally possible, did you understand the word equal? Equally possible, we're filming this, that's why I'm tending to look above everybody, is post-traumatic growth syndrome. Here's my point. I am telling you the single biggest difference in my entire life, and I'm 61 now, was my visit here. It has shaped me in ways that are countless. I had more physical resilience after I was here. I had more mental resilience. I had more emotional resilience. I had more social resilience. There was a process involved in it, of course. But what I am telling you is that this can be the best time of your life. This can be the most exciting thing that is ever going to happen to you. Better than getting married, and you're thinking, well, that doesn't take much. Better than getting married, better than a new car, better than a great job. Watch how it happens. The battle begins when you leave here. Now, my aha moment came just before I left here. I walked down that street right over there, and I went to the beach, And I rolled up my pant legs, took off my shoes and socks, and I waded into the water, probably knee deep. And as the waves were coming in, I thought, what if each one of those waves was like a day of my life? I wonder how many of those I've got left. And I thought, you know what? If I get better, if I live through this, I'm not going to go back to the life I had. I had chosen a career and a college that my mother had chosen for me. She was well-meaning, but it was all wrong for me. I had just been living someone else's life. And I made a promise to myself right out there that if I lived through this, I was going to go back and create the life that I think God wanted me to live. And I did that. And when I left here, I had unbelievable resources and energy. Way more than when I came, because the question is your life worth saving? I mean, if what you're going home to wasn't any great shakes to begin with, why would you quit eating burgers? Why would you quit eating French fries? To live for what? You think I'm kidding? My guess is that 80% of the people that come here are completely off their program after 6 months. Probably 80%. In other words, they do the diet for a while, they do the detox for a while, they do the affirmations for a while, and then it just gets dull. And after all, they're back to the same life they had before they got sick, and maybe why they got sick, because their life was not rewarding. I'm asking you, look at your life. And maybe this is a time to use this experience as a springboard. Maybe it's time that you say, what was I put on this earth to do? Am I doing it? And when you know you're doing what you should be doing, time ceases to exist. It can be 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm working on something. I've lost all track of time. I may wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and instead of rolling over and go back to sleep, I get out of bed. Figure I'll take a nap maybe half hour today. I get out of bed because I'm involved in what I'm doing. This is where energy comes from. This is where resources come from. It wasn't long after that I became a radio talk show host. It wasn't long after that I became a syndicated columnist, humor for Knight Ridder. Just crazy things came into my life because the possibility door opened and new energy was found. So wrestle with this. Otherwise, you will get distracted, bored, or discouraged. And when it comes time to pick that salad again for another day, or have a big, thick, juicy burger over here, there'll come a day you'll go, heck with the salad, give me that burger, and I'm going for chocolate pie at Denny's later. Is this the life you left behind worth going back to? And what needs to change for questions 1 and 2 to be answered with a resounding yes? That's what I want you to wrestle with. That's what I want you to decide before you leave this building. Are you all in? That's what I want. I want that vote. Because the real power here is not Dr. Francisco Contreras. It's not this hospital. It's not the vitamins they're going to give you. It's not the vitamin C treatment or the Laetrile or whatever else goes on here. The real power here to turn your life around and get you well is you and me. Always telling our body, I'm for you. I'm going to do today what it takes to keep you well. And you gotta wanna to do this. So when you go home, first thing you're going to do is you're probably going to run into some negative people. They're going to say, well, did you get that out of your system? Are you done working with the crazies in Tijuana? Oh, yeah, you'll get it. And, then they'll say, come on, we're going for pizza and beer. Don't worry about what the doctor said. Let's go. And the first thing I did when I came home, I remember I was living in a mobile home, New Ulm, Minnesota. About 30, no, it was That would have been November. It was chilly, but it wasn't ice cold. Went home, opened the cupboards, and I turned to my wife and I said, there's almost nothing here I can eat. So she went and got a big box, and we boxed everything up and took it to the next door neighbors. Get rid of them. It'd be nice to have new neighbors anyway. The point I'm making is we had to get it out of the house because we had made a commitment. Then there were the ripple effect changes that need to come. But all in, 100% in the game. Yes, right now. Those are the terms that your body's immune system go, okay, I'm for you. I will give you what you need. Otherwise, you think, I don't think so, man. And your body goes, you're right, man. This is way more than we can handle. And it begins to crater. How I got where you're headed? I've written a little book. It's not rocket science. It's called The Cancer Conundrum. The word conundrum means mystery, or you don't know what to do. And believe me, you had your fill of not knowing what to do. Like it started 2 months ago, and it's going to pretty much keep up. But I talk about resetting your life. These I've got. I'm gonna charge you less price when we're off camera than it's on the book. But those are available, and I'll sign it if you like. And then I would like you to write down or memorize this facebook.com/Oasis of Hope Hospital. On that site, from the splash page, you'll be able to get this program. You'll be able to get Cooking with the Doctor. Once a week, Dr. Contreras and I are making food. And while I'm cooking, he's talking. This is good, this is bad, why are you making this? And that will be of value. We're also going to go grocery shopping with the doctor. And where we actually go through a regular, not an expensive health food store, regular grocery store and say, okay, you got this choice and this choice. Which one should I make? Well, let's see what the price is here and the price is here. And I've learned I'm a black belt in shopping. We're going to go through that. So www.facebook.com/Oasis of Hope Hospital. And do me a favor, like us. We're also going to have some opportunity for you in the not too distant future. When we do the Cooking with the Doctor show, we're going to offer the cookware at a reduced price over what's being sold out there. And teach you how to use waterless and greaseless cookware. That's a huge advantage. Huge. Dr. James Marsden from Kansas State University did a test, and they found that by using waterless and greaseless methods, it's a difference between retaining 20% of the original nutrients in the food and 95%. When you nuke something, it's 400 degrees. It's dead. You killed it. The enzymes are gone. The food value is gone. It's roughage. So we're going to teach you how to buy the stuff, how to cook with it, and if you wanted to, you could also hold little cooking demos at churches, at temples, at rotaries, at whatever else, and teach people what you know. We're also going to have a distributor program for vitamins, so that if, not multi-level, but if you want to bring people into this, get on the stick and show people how to be well, you'll be able to do that as what's called an Oasis ambassador. We'll have annual conventions. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we've got on the grill. Here's why. Because what we're doing is good. What we're doing works. I'm not the only guy that survived, by a long shot. I was down here visiting one day, because I live in San Diego, and Mary came up, tapped me on the shoulder and said, see that lady at the end of the hall? I looked down there, I said, yeah. In fact, it was this hall right outside this door. She said, that lady was here about the same time you were. I said, really? 1974? She said, yeah, I'm almost sure. So I walked down, introduced myself, and Betty was here 2 months after I was. And she was stage 4 and was carried in the door. I wasn't. This way. That's how sick she was. Today, she's alive and well in St. Pete, Florida. She got tons of grandkids, and now a great-grandkid, and she's excited. So there's a reason we're here, and there's a reason you're here. Here's what I believe. You are at the right place at the right time. And this can be the single most important thing that ever happens to you if you respond correctly. And by correctly, I mean all in.